Hello once again. Now, I'm sure we all know about the atrocities going on in Israel right now, but it's strangely quiet on mainstream media, MSM, and to seek out the truth, or at least half the truth, you have to look on MSAM, which is mainstream alternative media, which basically is here on YouTube, it's on Rumble, Odyssey, Telegram, and Twitter. Sorry, I refuse to call Twitter anything else but Twitter. That's what it is, it's Twitter. And there is also good coverage on Al Jazeera News. And of course, all news outlets are somewhat biased, depending on who pays the piper. It seems that most mainstream media in this country is operated through the BBC, which is basically the government. Anyway, the big question today is the United States wagging the tail of the Israeli dog rather than the other way round, as most people seem to think? That is Israel being used as a proxy to attack Iran, just as it used Ukraine as a proxy to attack Russia? And let's try to listen to someone who has first-hand knowledge of world events surrounding the tragedy of the Middle East, or actually more correctly, West Asia, as local people in the area refer to it. Now, Dr. Gabor Màte was born in Budapest in 1944, which makes him 80 years old today. And he was a child of the Holocaust. His grandparents were killed in Auschwitz, and at the age of 1, his mother put him in the care of total strangers to save his life, which they did. And he was saved by the Soviet army. And let's not forget who liberated Auschwitz in the first place. And yet that country was excluded from the anniversary by rampant Russophobia by the West. But the history remains true. Well, it doesn't until it's rewritten by the hierarchy. There are many people out there who are trying to rewrite history, especially in schools, in the curriculum. And Gabor Màte left Hungary only 7 years after it came under communist rule. His family immigrated to Canada in 1956, and he lived in Vancouver since the 1960s. He has, by most accounts, seen it all, studying in the US during the Vietnam War and working as a physician during the height of the AIDS, I was going to say pandemic. It wasn't, it was a debacle. And once again, Gabor Màte is opposed to medicine's tendency to address symptoms without getting to the exact cause. And he's obsessed with finding out what truly makes us human beings sick. And he believes the answer is purely simple: stress, which ravages the body far more than Western medicine will ever allow you to know. And its leading cause is uncertainty, driven by lack of information, loss of control, conflict, and most of all, media propaganda. The more inequality there is in a society, the more disease there will be. And Màte notes, pointing to the economic insecurity affecting many people in Britain today, with an estimated 14.5 million people currently living in poverty. And this latest government, in their infinite wisdom, has taken away their fuel allowance. Now, many of us can cope with that, but there are many that cannot. Cancer diagnoses and autoimmune disease are rising despite the betterment of medicine and an ever greater number of licensed pharma companies who, it seems, put profit far ahead of health. They don't want you cured. They want you as a customer for the rest of your life. And therein lies the paradox, which Gabor Màte seems to, he seeks to entangle. It's very late in his life, but I'm sure his son and daughter will carry on the crusade. His son, Aaron, already formed the Grey Zone with Max Blumenthal and has great coverage on mainstream alternative media. The Grey Zone, look it up. It's very, very interesting and reveals a lot that you won't find anywhere else. And unsurprisingly, it's on childhood that he shines the brightest. The trauma that we all experience as children stays with us throughout our lives. And I can attest to that. But contrary to popular belief, I don't believe in sharing. In my book, a trouble shared is a trouble doubled. And talking about it only reinforces a memory, which personally I don't want to even go there. Thank you very much. Parents need to hold and cuddle their children. And unfortunately, there wasn't much of that in my childhood. But I recognised it in others, and I must confess I was quite envious. And Gabor tells that mammals impart their paternal love through touch. And it's a far cry from what we're used to here in Britain. Here's a quote from someone who calls himself a journalist, and I quote, "We Brits are as cold as ice, and that's how we like it," said a reporter in the Times newspaper last year. Quite obviously he was talking about himself, because it sure didn't describe me or anyone that I know. And interestingly, a mother rat licks her infants as soon as they are born, and the way she licks them impacts on how the baby rat's brain develop. And I'll leave a link to Dr. Màte, because as a Jew, in this interview, he speaks about his opinion on the events in Israel, and it's quite enlightening to watch. He is of the Jewish faith. He's not a Zionist, and there is a great deal of difference between the two. And unfortunately, it's not upbeat, but it seems some hope at the end of it all. So, thank you very much for listening to an old man in a chair. Bye-bye.